It's very bright in here. Hello, my name is Bram Pitoyo. I'm at Bram Pitoyo on Twitter, and I am an official type nerd. Today, I will present to you the secret history of fonts that you may not known before. Hot life kerning action included for all of you type geeks out there. Do you know that Gutenberg was one sneaky emulator when the letter form was first got into the machine, the letterpress machine? It was originally invented to emulate handwriting perfectly. Now, for this reason, because, we handwrite very, very, in a very free-form manner, so the first letter forms on printed matter actually contains a lot of A's and a lot of B's and C's and so on and so forth to emulate alphabets exactly like that. The current letter forms that we have on your right, which is very regular, during the first years of letter forms were deemed to cause people to go blind because people aren't used to it. So that's, that's sort of very strange because people are used to what they see on the left. Fact number 2, all your Garamond belong to us. There's a very famous type designer, really the first punch cutter in the world, named Claude Garamond. He's from France, very famous. His type got so famous that it got revived over and over and over again. On your right is 17 different revival of Garamond. You may have seen it on your computer: Adobe Garamond, Monotype Garamond, Linotype Garamond, etc., etc. Now, what all of us may not know is that not until the 1950s did someone named Beatrice Ward identify that actually what they called Garamond is really the type of Jean Janin on the left. So Jean Janin lived 40 years after Garamond, and for the longest time people don't know that their Garamond is really not a Garamond. Now, fact number 3 that you also may not know is that the Declaration of Independence is printed with type from England. Now, Ben Franklin was one of the guys that, that printed it, and the type was named Caslon after its creator, William Caslon, the guy on the top. Ben Franklin's the bottom, obviously. And Ben Franklin loved the type so much that he sort of coined the phrase, when in doubt, use Caslon. And that still rings true today because, Caslon is so versatile and it's a workhorse. Now, next type is that, Ben Franklin also liked the work of another typographer named John Baskerville. For the longest time, John Baskerville had an affair with a lady named Sarah Eves, for about 30 years. So when John Baskerville's type got revived on the late 90s by the lady named Zuzana Lichko on the bottom, she carefully named the type Mrs. Eves. So when you see the type named Mrs. Eves, that's John Baskerville's mistress, basically. So what you may not know is sans serif is very, very old. So the year is Victorian England, and printing got very, very fancy, and people started experimenting with type. One of the experiments they did was they take a serif type and they cut all the serifs off, right? It's called sans serif, it's without serifs, but people back then call it grotesque because indeed it's very grotesque to sort of cut your hands and feet off. It's grotesque to cut, feet from serifs off. And so this grotesque type form kind of took off. It got very popular in German, and in Swiss, the latest iteration is called Die Neue Haas Grotesque. It's a German. And next, I'll give this t-shirt away for free if anyone can guess what Die Neue Haas Grotesque was named after. Okay, you're right. It is Helvetica. So this is a Helvetica shirt. This is for you. So, there's this whole deal about Helvetica, and of course now we have to say something about Arial. So where does Arial came from, really? So, late 80s and early 90s, Apple licensed Helvetica to use in its every computer system. They bought it from Linotype. They had to pay for every copy. But Microsoft says, we want to license something similar, right? Of course, we don't have all the money in the world to pay it, so they called Monotype and say, hey, can you design something that's very similar? So Arial is in light blue, Helvetica is in white, and you see how they're very similarly set, and indeed on paper, if you set Arial and Helvetica side by side, they will look very, very similar. Still, Arial is technically, considered a ripoff and sort of Helvetica's bastard child, right? So when you can, use Helvetica. Last fact is that Comic Sans is really born out of Microsoft Bob. Remember Microsoft Bob? It was, kind of disastrous. Exactly. It was created for that purpose, and it should remain that way. My name is Bram, and I do a series called Type ID, and I hope that's helpful. Thank you.